June 30th, 2020. Wouldn't it be great if President Trump got the same consideration that all the former presidents got when they first entered office? Wouldn't it be great if President Obama faced the same skeptical press, the same skeptical citizenry that we face today? Wouldn't it be great if there was equality of investigation for all of the presidents? Never before have we seen a president so unjustly investigated as to have been weaponized to undo a fair, peaceful election. The basic consideration of every president should be the standard of the office holder, the duly elected office holder. If President Trump was allowed that basic consideration, just imagine what our nation could have accomplished. He's already accomplished so much. Had the best economy in 50 years, maybe even 100 years. The best unemployment in every category, every race, every age, lowest interest rates, highest stock market. That's not a reflection of the economy, but the stock market is very important to all of the 401ks and the pension. There wasn't a single standout segment of society that was doing worse under President Trump, and yet he is demonized at every turn. I say unfairly. It is an unfair criticism to say that he is an evil, misogynist, bigoted, homophobic, xenophobic, any of those icks. He isn't. His history shows that he wasn't. What we have going on in today, this is what we have. We have a pandemic that was forced upon our society from China. We call it the CCP virus, the Chinese Communist Party virus, that was unleashed on the world knowingly by those power brokers in Communist China. Not the Chinese people, but the Communist Party, those elites, Xi Jinping in particular. Before that, we had the impeachment hoax. Before that, we had the Russian hoax. Before that, we had election meddling. Before that, there has never been a day that the President of the United States, President Trump, has been allowed to just be the President of the United States, handling all of the foreign affairs, handling domestic issues, handling ceremonial issues. He has not been permitted to just be the President of the United States. Kudos to the Democrat, leftist, Marxist party, because they have kept him on his heels, off his toes, which has kept him from being 100% Donald J. Trump. 100% Donald J. Trump, watch out. There is no stopping this man. He does not take no for an answer. He is the Energizer Bunny, and we are lucky to have him. What if President Trump had the support that Barack Obama had in the media, in the skeptical citizenry, in the skeptical and criminal press corps? What if he had a little bit of support, just fair support, just 50-50 support from Google, Facebook, Twitter, all of the other Silicon Valley power brokers? They are all against him. Looking at today, we've got the pandemic hoax, shut down the economy, the establishment health part of our government, led by Fauci and Birx. Those establishment types scared the daylights out of Trump because he is a caring, loving man. They came to him and said, you're going to have 500,000 to 2.5 million deaths in the United States alone based on a faulty model. Trump has to determine, based on his leaders in each of those areas, from the military to the health, and this was the health department, what are you going to do? It was based on a faulty model. The president initially said was, this thing's just going to run its course, just like a regular flu, and I believe that that is actually the correct answer. But they scared him into doing a shutdown. It was supposed to be a temporary 2-week, maybe a 4-week shutdown in order to get the hospitals up to speed, bring in more respirators, give it 2 to 4 weeks shutdown in order to ramp up the emergency rooms in the hospitals, to allow the manufacturers of respirators to bring in more gowns for the medical staff, for the first-line responders, to build up the ventilators that were in storage that the Obama administration allowed to squander, that became dusty and old and unusable. After that, the Federal Reserve was allowed to come in. And this is reminiscent of what happened in 2008 and 2009. Ex-Goldman Sachs came in and got on bended knee to Nancy Pelosi and said, save us, please save us. He was the Treasury Secretary, but at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, he was an establishment deep stater that wanted to save the banks, save his hide, save his stock options, save his billions of dollars. His name was Hank Paulson. Side note, when the crisis was coming down, when Lehman was failing, Lehman Brothers was failing, when Bear Stearns was failing, they did a trace of all of his cell phone calls, and he wasn't calling different people in the administration. He was calling Lloyd Blankfein, who is the current leader of Goldman Sachs. That's who he mostly called. That shows that he didn't give a damn about the U.S. economy or you and me, the small guy. All he wanted to do was save him and his cronies in the banking industry. Henry Hank Paulson got on bended knee to Nancy Pelosi and begged for TARP. He begged for all of the banks to be bailed out. Not the little guy. They could have spent less money bailing out the individual mortgage holders and saved the economy that way instead of just giving trillions of dollars from the Federal Reserve, funny money, printed money, out of thin air to these banksters. That was then, this is now. We've got the same motif working today, though. You've got the deep staters trying to save their power. Now what we have is Black Lives Matter. Marxist, Stalinist, violent, murderous organization based on a fraud from Ferguson, Missouri, hands up, don't shoot, complete lie that is now worth hundreds of millions of dollars because the race hustlers, the race pimps, Al Sharpton, Sean King, all frauds. Al Sharpton, just do a quick DuckDuckGo search and you'll see from the 1980s what a fraud that fat ass is. Sean King is actually white. He has denied his white father and his white mother, the people that raised him, but yet that doesn't matter. A white guy is running Black Lives Matter. A white guy, a white liberal Marxist is talking for the black community. That's how absurd our society is today. It is so absurd that a washed-up quarterback can take part in the national conversation, starting with a kneeling because he's not getting enough attention. Again, white parents. White parents raised this ungrateful, spoiled, pampered millionaire. Nike was the first one to fall down on their own sword through cowardice. And that's why we have riots in the street today. The inmates are running the asylum, but for how long? We are seeing the death throes of the establishment. We are seeing the death throes of an organization, the left and the right, the establishment Republicans and the Democrats, and the independents, like Bernie Sanders. The leftists are opposed to everything that Donald Trump utters. He could cure cancer, and they would say that he's being mean to cancer. He came in to drain the swamp, and that's why you're seeing these death throes. You're seeing rebellion in the streets, financed by George Soros and his like. He's exposed them for who they are. He's exposed them by making them oppose his American-centric ideals and policies. But they can't handle that, so they're exposing themselves. They're saying out loud the absurdities, the anti-constitutional, the unconstitutional things that they've been saying to each other behind closed doors. They're saying out loud that everybody can hear it. And they control the media, so they spin it like that's the law. They never expected their secrets to be exposed, to be shown under the light, the scrutiny of the American public. So far, the crimes of the past generation, from Hunter Biden to Barack Obama, all of them are criminals. All of them take money. All of them are starting to be exposed. Their way of life is changing. Our way of life, what our ideals were, what we thought this country was, is coming out. We've been living in the delusion. They've been living this pampered life. You see these people in Washington, D.C., getting to be millionaires and billionaires while serving in the House and the Senate for 20, 30, 40 years. They're scared now. They're seeing what happened back in the late 1980s in Romania. Remember when that guy, Nicolae Ceausescu, remember all the crimes against humanity that he did? Similar to what our politicians have done for the last 40 years? You can go through individually to each of these people. From Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. This isn't just the Democrats. It's all of them that have been in Washington for too long. They have sold us out. Ceausescu was shot to death after a trial for his crimes against his country. Before President Trump was elected, he was fawned over because they never thought that he was going to beat the chosen one, Hillary Clinton. Election night was a perfect example. Fox News, Chris Wallace, showed himself. He was one of the first to say, oh my God, President Trump has won. Everybody else was still in denial. You saw their sunken faces. The mainstream media will not allow the change to happen without a fight. They are the marketing organization for the establishment. What are we going to do about that? The First Amendment says that we have the right to a free press, but there has to be some law against the constant lie. For those of you that think that it's just a left versus right, a Republican versus a Democrat fight, just remember Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan was a rhino from day one. He did a workout video. Big ego. Little man. Rhino. Republican in name only. Talked a good game. Was Mittens Romney, vice presidential candidate, got his ass kicked by the lying and treacherous Joe Biden in the 2012 election against Obama and Biden. But he was the Speaker of the House for the first 2 years of President Trump's administration. And what did he do? He didn't do anything. He was hoping that President Trump was going to be removed from office. He was hoping that he was going to resign from office. He doesn't like him personally, but he's supposed to be a Republican. He's supposed to be fighting for us. He's supposed to be a constitutionalist. He was a Tea Party guy that came in that was supposed to bring back structure and the rule of law, but he wasn't. He was a party guy. He's an establishment guy. He resigned because he couldn't dare work for President Trump. Let's take a look and ask this basic question. Name one thing that President Trump has done against the Constitution. One thing that he's done that has been against the American public. I'll wait. Crickets. Ask that same question about any deal that President Obama did and which way he was fighting. From the Iran deal to arming the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. From day one, he was an anti-American president. And this is the most pro-American president that we have in President Trump. And yet he gets no support. You have nothing but lies coming out of all areas of the mainstream media. Remember when John McCain was flown back to put in the final vote to repeal Obamacare? Those first 2 years that they controlled the House and the Senate? Remember what happened? That traitor, and I'm not talking about him and the Viet Cong, that was the one reason that John McCain, that he was allowed to exist, is because he did the right thing when he was in the Hanoi Hilton. He came in and he was an honorable man. He said, first in, first out, even though his daddy was a big, I think an admiral. He was allowed to get out early. All he had to do was say yes, but he refused. He said, my guys go first. And he suffered for 7 long years. What he did since he came out of the Hanoi Hilton, outside of politics and in, what we will talk about is what he did to sell out the United States and his party. He came in and he was the final deciding vote. Prior to the vote, he was suffering from cancer and he had some chemotherapy. But he said, no, I'm a tough guy. I'm going to come. I'm going to put that final vote in. He told them, he gave assurances that he was going to vote to repeal. Because of his hatred for Donald J. Trump, a non-establishment guy, Donald J. Trump is, he made a big showing of it. He came in, this feeble old man, like he's going to vote to repeal it. And what did he do? He did a thumbs down. Very theatrical. Really pathetic when you think about a dying man, that's what he wanted to do. On the positive side, you've got some real scrappers out there. Ex-Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw. You got Ted Cruz. You got Doug Collins. You got Nunes. Sometimes Mike Lee comes and stands up, but I think he's too close to Mittens Romney, who is he is really a wolf in sheep's clothing. But you got Crenshaw, and McCarthy is mostly good, but he's very political, and if they take back the House, he's going to be the Speaker of the House. Most of the time, I like what he has to say, but he's a bit of an evasive guy. If we can just give President Trump a little bit of support, because he's up against the wall every day, every press conference that he's at, that Kylie McEnany is at, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, pilloried. Kylie McEnany, pilloried. Every day it's a fight. During the coronavirus task force daily briefings, there was never just a simple question about what are we doing, how are we doing, what can we do to help? What can we do to help get the word out? Every question was a gotcha question. But today, people are starting to stand up because we know that we're not bad people because of the color of our skin. We are not bad people because we support the policies of the President of the United States. We are not bad people because we think for ourselves. We are not bad people because we refuse to kneel to someone of a different color of our skin because of something that happened in the 1800s and before. We're not bad people because we are self-confident. We are not bad people because we just want to live our lives and be left alone. Don't be afraid to be you. Love. Don't forget. Love yourself and love others and treat people with respect. Some simple rules for living life. They are global. Do all that you have agreed to do and do not encroach on other persons or their property. That is all encompassing. That's how a society flourishes.